The news begins in West Africa, where a late fire has ravaged parts of the popular terminus market in Jos, Plateau State, Nigeria, causing billions of naira in damages. Now, eyewitnesses say the fire started shortly after 11 p.m. on Tuesday and quickly spread across multiple shops. Now, by the time of this report, firefighters had managed to bring the blaze under control. Authorities are still investigating the cause of the fire, but the destruction to goods and property is significant. The market, a major commercial hub in the region, has been left with extensive losses. Investigations are ongoing to determine how the fire started. Now, in the meantime, the Nigeria Labour Congress says the Labour Party's 2023 presidential candidate, Peter Obi, does not need a coalition with the PDP or backing from political heavyweights like Atiku Abubakar or Nasir El-Rufai to win in 2027. Now, the deputy president of the NLC Political Commission, Professor Theophilus Undubuaku, made the declaration in an exclusive interview stating that Peter Obi remains a strong and widely accepted candidate across the country. Undubuaku insisted that Obi can defeat incumbent President Bola Ahmed Tinubu in a free and fair contest without the backing of former Vice President Atiku Abubakar, former Kaduna State Governor Nasir El-Rufai, or any coalition with the PDP. Now, describing the opposition party as crisis-ridden and near empty, Professor Undubuaku dismissed ongoing speculation about Obi possibly returning to the PDP. His remarks come just days after the Obedience Movement, the grassroots coalition backing Obi, reaffirmed its loyalty to the former Anambra governor, pledging support regardless of the platform he chooses to run in 2027. And now in Kaduna State, the People's Democratic Party says it's gaining momentum in its bid to reclaim political power, pointing to rising public discontent with the ruling All Progressives Congress. Now, the chairman of the People's Democratic Party in Kaduna State, Chief Edward Marsha, says the party is on track to make a major comeback. In a statement released on Wednesday, Marsha cited increasing dissatisfaction with the APC and growing grassroots support for the PDP's vision. Now, since taking the reins 6 months ago, Marsha says his leadership has focused on reconciliation, party unity, and strengthening engagement at the grassroots level. He noted that ongoing consultations with key stakeholders have helped reposition the party as a viable opposition force and a source of hope for the people of Kaduna State. Many thanks for staying with us. Now, Nigeria inches closer to the 2027 general elections. The political space is witnessing a fresh wave of realignment, with several opposition figures defecting to the ruling All Progressives Congress, the APC. Now, former vice presidential candidates Ifeanyi Okowa and Delta State Governor Sheriff Oboreveri are among the latest to cross over, fueling concerns about the strength and future of opposition politics. In an exclusive interview with News Central, the national chairman of the Social Democratic Party, Shehu Gabam, described the defections as an outdated strategy deployed by politicians solely for self-preservation. Now, Gabam warned that Nigeria risks sliding into a one-party state and also raised concerns over alleged attempts to destabilize the Social Democratic Party.
Because it's the same old tactics that is applying today. It wasn't as if it's a new innovation. Statistically, the defections largely do not affect the outcome of the result, because largely most of the governors of today are detached with their own people. We had a lot of pillars, a lot of information going around. Some people are trying to create crisis into the SDP as well. I'm calling the attention of the stakeholders to monitor what is going on in Nigeria. It appears that we are trying to restore anarchy instead of democracy that we choose as a matter of choice. We choose democracy, government of the people, by the people, and for the people. Some elements who do not believe in a democracy are trying to create anarchy within political cycles. If the aim is to have one-party system in Nigeria, there's no need to have other political parties. They can be deregistered. Let it be a constitutional thing that Nigeria will have one-party system. Otherwise, this nonsense has to come to an end.
And now to judicial matters. The trial of the leader of the proscribed indigenous people of Biafra, Nnamdi Kanu, resumed today at the Federal High Court in Abuja. Now, during proceedings, the federal government, represented by Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Adegboyega Awomolo, presented the key witnesses responsible for the arrest of Kanu in 2015, who testified on his activities bordering on the operation of Radio Biafra. Our correspondent, Joshua Imirai, was in court and now reports.
The detained leader of the proscribed indigenous people of Biafra, Nnamdi Kanu, appeared before the Federal High Court in Abuja on Tuesday as his trial resumed before Justice James Omotosho. At the commencement of proceedings, the prosecution presented his first witness, an operative of the Department of State Services identified only as AEA. The witness, who testified behind the screen to protect his identity, told the court that he led the team that arrested Kanu in Lagos on October 14, 2015. The witness also submitted video recordings of Kanu's interrogation, along with an extrajudicial statement in which Kanu allegedly admitted to establishing Radio Biafra in London without registering it with Nigerian authorities. The court also admitted in evidence 4 suitcases said to contain items recovered during the 2015 arrest, including personal effects and broadcast equipment reportedly used for Radio Biafra. At the close of proceedings, Kanu's legal team and associate gave their reactions over what transpired in court.
We thank God that the matter has eventually kicked off without rancor. You know, you needed to have been in court to observe the proceedings. All the parties cooperated, and PW1 testified. PW1 is Mr. AAA, as he was designated. He investigated the matter 10 years ago. And today he came and gave his evidence and tendered documents.
We are finally here. The government is finally having the trial that it desires. Our position still remains unchanged despite the ongoing trial. That our client is innocent of the charges, that the case is driven by political considerations, and in the end, the innocence of our client will be established.
I've seen a change in our system, a very dignified, honorable judge conducting every proceeding with respect, very respectful, honorable man. I was so impressed. I couldn't believe I was in there, listening to how he conducted the hearing.
The matter has been adjourned to Friday, May the 2nd, for cross-examination of the prosecution's witness by the Defense Counsel. In Abuja for News Central, I am Joshua Imirai.
Now, the chairman of the 8 Nigerian Bar Association NBA branches in Rivers State have condemned a recent query issued to the chairman of the NBA Port Harcourt branch, Cordelia Eke, by the sole administrator of Rivers State, Ibok Ete-Bass. Now, the query dated April 25th and signed by the director of the administration, Rivers State Ministry of Justice, accused Eke of serious misconduct, alleging that she co-authored a communique criticizing Iba's administration for severe and brazen acts of lawlessness and impunity, as well as actions deemed unconstitutional, including the dismantling of democratic institutions and attacks on peaceful protesters. Now, in a joint press statement, the NBA branch chairman described the allegations as an attempt to intimidate the NBA branch chairman and stifle dissenting voices among legal professionals in the state. Now, they clarify that Eke did not issue the controversial communique in her capacity as a civil servant, but rather as the elected chairman of the Port Harcourt branch, in line with her constitutional mandate within the NBA.
Chairman of branches of Nigerian Bar Association, NBA in Rivers State, having the constitutional mandates of our respective branches, are moved to make this statement following a query dated 25th day of April 2025, titled "Query for Serious Misconduct," issued to one of us, Mrs. Cordelia Eke, the learned chairman of the Harcourt branch, by the sole administrator of Rivers State, through the Rivers State Ministry of Justice. We consider the issuance of this query to our brother chairman as an unfortunate act of the sole administrator has decided to use to suppress freedom of speech and constitutional rights of the good people of Rivers State against his various incidences of dismantling peaceful democratic institutions already in existence in Rivers State and other acts and actions capable of causing breach of peace instead of maintaining the peace, which was the primary claim for his appointment as a sole administrator in Rivers State. The query to our learned brother chairman is nothing but a ploy by which the sole administrator seeks to intimidate her into discontinuing her functions and duties of NBA Port Harcourt branch and an attempt to intimidate lawyers in Rivers State and by extension other good people of Rivers State from standing up and speaking against executive rascality, lawlessness, and impunity. We, the chairman of the NBA branches in Rivers State, condemn in its entirety the query issued to our brother chairman of Port Harcourt branch and demand an immediate withdrawal of same forthwith. Finally, we shall continue to stand and speak against any act of intimidation, harassment, persecution, or otherwise by the sole administrator, either directly or through his agents, cronies, against the chairman of NBA branches in Rivers State, lawyers, and the general public from the sole administrator, either directly or through him or his agent.
Afia, thank you for joining us. Can we start with what the main takeaways are from the Prime Minister's answers to some of the questions today? What do you think it has been, Afia?
Yeah, a busy and varied session for Prime Minister's questions today. Starting off with congratulating Mark Carney, the new Prime Minister of Canada. The election took place on Monday. The results have been trickling in over the past 48 hours. So Keir Starmer congratulating Mark Carney on being nominated the next Canadian Prime Minister. Kemi Badenoch also reiterating that. And also congratulating people that took place in the London and Manchester marathons that took place over the weekend. A few MPs in the House did that as well. And then we moved on to talking about grooming gangs and the grooming gangs inquiry that has been taking place. We had a national inquiry into grooming gangs that took place over the past few years under a Conservative government. And this is the national scandal that we have. We've seen young women who've been groomed by older men in gangs and have been abused and sexually assaulted. And so Kemi Badenoch has been calling for a national inquiry. Now, we have had inquiries that have been done into the grooming gangs, but nothing that has been labelled a national inquiry. Keir Starmer saying he's following the recommendations that have been made, that they should listen to victims, and that we should have more local inquiries and not national. The local elections are taking place tomorrow. It's also been mentioned it's going to be a passing verdict on the leader of the opposition, Kemi Badenoch, as well as Sir Keir Starmer, nearly a year into his first year as Prime Minister. And then we had more questions from around the House. We had Davey, the leader of Liberal Democrats, again congratulating Mark Carney and asking whether the government will give members a vote on any trade deal that they will make with the United States.
New Central International Correspondent Afia Hagan for joining us and sharing the updates on the conversations. And definitely we're going to see how that turns out as it unfolds. We go on a short break now, and when we come back, there's more on the other side of the stories. So stay with us. You're still live with us on the news. Many thanks for staying tuned. Now, the Nigerian Police Force has officially resumed the issuance of tinted glass permits nationwide following a directive from the Inspector General of Police, Kayode Egbetokun. In a statement released on Wednesday, the Force Public Relations Officer Olumuyiwa Adejobi confirmed the decision, stating it was made in response to widespread concern over the treatment of vehicle owners with factory-fitted tinted windows. The police acknowledged that many modern vehicles come with tinted windows designed for comfort, safety, and aesthetics. However, they also emphasized the need for a regulated system, citing the misuse of tinted glass by criminals as a growing security risk. The police say the reintroduction of the permit system will help strike a balance between public convenience and national security while also aiding ongoing investigations and law enforcement operations across the country. Now, the force urges motorists to comply with the updated permit process as efforts continue to strengthen Nigeria's internal security framework. And now, Nigerian socialite and businesswoman Aisha Achimugu has filed a suit at the Federal High Court seeking protection from what she describes as potential harassment by Nigeria's top security and anti-corruption agencies. Now, in the suit before Justice Inyang Eko, Achimugu is asking the court to restrain the NSCDC, Nigeria Immigration Service, the ICPC, the EFCC, and the Nigeria Police Force from arresting or detaining her. Now, we have our correspondent Joshua Imirai, who will be joining us right now to discuss more on this. Hello, good afternoon, Joshua.
Good afternoon, and to you, blessings.
All right, thanks for joining us. Can you give us an update on the story? What's happening right now where you are? Joshua, if you can hear me, can you give us an update on this story? What's happening right now at the court?
I'm live at the Federal High Court in Abuja, where earlier we thought Aisha Achimugu is being arraigned by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission. But the case has taken a drastic turn as we got to find out that Aisha Achimugu, popular Nigerian socialite and businesswoman, is suing the EFCC alongside other top government agencies and security agencies of abusing a fundamental human right. Now, you recall that Aisha Achimugu was arrested just yesterday at one of Nigeria's airports, and she was taken into custody by the EFCC. On getting to court this morning, we discovered that now she's suing the EFCC, the Nigerian Police Force, the NSCDC, other top government officials attached to the international airport. She's suing them for fundamental human rights, and she's paying the court to stop her unlawful, according to what she said, unlawful arrest and detainment. Now, upon the commencement of proceedings this morning, the two counsels representing both parties introduced themselves, but in a drastic turn on the event, Justice Inyang Eko of the Federal High Court ordered both lawyers to come into his chambers. We are still awaiting what will happen from those chambers, and we are still awaiting further information from those chambers. Over to you, Blessing.
Thank you so much, Joshua Imirai, our correspondent in the Federal Capital Territory. You go on a short break now. You're still live with us on the news. And when we come back, we've got more stories across the African continent and beyond. Stay with us. Thanks for staying with us now. Hundreds of Congolese soldiers and police trapped for months in UN bases in Goma are being evacuated, the Red Cross announced on Wednesday. The International Committee of the Red Cross is escorting convoys to Kinshasa, carrying disarmed personnel and their families. Now, the move follows tough negotiations between the DRC government, the UN, and M23 rebels. Goma's airport has been shut since January now, and M23 refused evacuation by air. Over 1,500 troops had sought shelter from advancing rebels who seized Goma. Now, one officer said he feared the road journey through rebel territory. The ICRC stressed all parties pledged to ensure safe passage, though risks remain high. Now, M23 is accused of Rwandan backing, which Kigali denies. On the African continent, President Donald Trump celebrated his first 100 days in office with a fiery rally in Michigan, hailing what he called the most successful first 100 days of any administration in the history of the U.S. Now, speaking to an enthusiastic crowd, the 78-year-old president listed his administration's achievements while launching blistering attacks on critics. Now, he slammed Joe Biden as sleepy, labeled judges who ruled against him as communist, and accused Democratic opponents of being radical left. Now, Trump also took aim at the media, calling it fake. Despite his confident tone, recent polls show growing public unease over political instability and economic uncertainty.
Heartland of our nation to celebrate the most successful first 100 days of any administration in the history of our country, and that's according to many.
And to sports now. Super Falcons forward Rasheedat Ajibade is set to leave Atletico Madrid at the end of this season after 4 successful years with the Spanish club. The 25-year-old Nigerian international has scored 40 goals in 136 appearances for Atletico, including 6 goals this season, as the team sits third in the league standings. Now, reports suggest Ajibade is likely headed to the National Women's Soccer League in the United States, possibly joining her Nigerian teammate Asisat Oshoala at Bay FC. Now, the NWSL has been attracting numerous top female players in recent months. Ajibade, who has scored 5 goals in 29 appearances for Nigeria's national team, is expected to be a standout performer at the upcoming Women's African Cup of Nations. And that's all in the news at this hour. But before we go, let's take another look at some of our major stories. Now, I did tell you billions of naira worth of goods go up in flames in late night inferno at Jos Terminus Market. We also mentioned Nigeria police announced resumption of issuance of tinted glass permits nationwide. And finally, we told you that Red Cross says the evacuation of government troops from territories seized by M23 rebels has begun. Remember, you may send your eyewitness report to the WhatsApp number on the screen. Also, do well to follow us on social media. We are at News Central TV. You can watch News Central live on DSTV, channel 422, GoTV, channel 23, StarTimes, channel 274, Avo TV, and YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I'm Blessings Musugu.